Good morning. Welcome. Everyone may be seated. Thank you. I'm Greg Brandis, the Dean of Concord Law School of Kaplan University, and I want to welcome you to this graduation. Thank you. As I know you are, I am incredibly pleased and proud to be part of this special day with all of you, particularly with our graduates. We've concluded have concluded a long and tough, and we hope very rewarding journey here at the law school in their course of study. We appreciate them, and we admire what they've accomplished. This is Concord's 19th graduation ceremony. With the diplomas we will award today, that's 34 executive JD degrees and 59 Juris Doctor degrees, and for the first time, 4 LLM degrees. Concord's alumni body is now some 1,700 strong. Actually, 1768 is the number to keep track of. And they are, of course, spread out all over the United States and around the world. Now, Concord's ceremony is always very special to us and to our group, to our graduates. And I know today's will be exactly that way as well. As I've spoken with graduates and their families on prior occasions, the comment that I've most often heard from everyone is appreciation for the intimacy of the ritual that has evolved here. And so I wanted to say a moment about that, particularly the fact that every graduate gets the attention that he or she so richly deserves and has earned. The general atmosphere we're striving to achieve, the vibe, if you will, is serious but celebratory. And so I invite you to be in the moment with us today as we enjoy it, acknowledge the hard work and accomplishments of this winter 2013 graduating class. It's appropriate to say a few words about the law school, both for our guests who are joining us for the first time and to acknowledge what our graduates have been a part of. Like these graduates, those present today and those who cannot be with us today but are probably watching us today on the streaming cast, Concord has come a very long way. Imagine the brave souls who enrolled here back in 1998, at a time when online and distance education was unproven, particularly in the law. In that very short span of time, at least as we measure things in the academic world, Concord has moved from being an ambitious and audacious undertaking to establishing itself as a leading provider of legal education of the highest quality, whether or not delivered in the online form. We, all of us together and our graduates today, have made an awful lot of progress in those years, and that said, I'm confident that the best years are still those to come. But there's both a need and a demand for a legal education that is accessible, whether or not you live in a major city, and whether or not you can put your life on hold for 3 years or 4 to attend a full-time day program in a city where there's a law school. And I think that need is even greater today in these very unsettled economic times. So with your help, graduates, we continue to prove to the legal profession and to the legal education community that our online program has substance, rigor, community, interactivity, all those things we value in a legal education on par with all the other good law schools in the country. And we're also very proud of your role in that today as well. So let me tell you a little bit about our graduates today. Concord is a place that provides professional education to individuals who, in many cases, are already professionals. One way to illustrate that fact is to note that more than 30% of today's group arrived at Concord already having earned another postgraduate degree, and they had earned 33 of them among themselves. Among the group are PhDs, numerous masters, many MBAs, including computer science, economics, education, chemistry. No other law school in the country, not a single one, can speak like this about their graduates year in and year out. It just adds to the pride that we have in our graduates today. They come from institutions from New York to California, from the Midwest to the Southeast. They hold degrees from flagship public universities such as Virginia, The Ohio State, and Minnesota, from America's best-known and highly regarded private universities such as Johns Hopkins and USC. They also come from Concord's and Kaplan University's sister institutions in the new and exciting worlds of online and for-profit education, such as the University of Phoenix. We're also pleased to have graduates with degrees from abroad, a part of the group today, including China, South Korea, and the UK in this class. Well, you can see that Concord is a crossroads where the traditional and the new meet, a place of access and opportunity for a very diverse group of learners, and that's a pretty exciting place for all of us to be. We appreciate each of you, graduates, all your hard work, and the sacrifices that have been made to get to this point. We know that you'll go forth, you'll have great success, and you'll make worthwhile contributions both to the legal profession, to the business world, to government, and of course, importantly, to your communities. We look forward to learning more about all of that. We have a very talented and devoted faculty and staff, many of whom are with us today. They're here on the stage. We are also delighted to have a number of colleagues who teach at other law schools and contribute to the Concord experience, community, and curriculum with us today. I'd like to first introduce Joel Friedman of Tulane University Law School. Joel teaches. Joel? Thank you for being with us. Joel is a tenured professor of some 37 years law teaching experience at Tulane University School of Law. He teaches a very popular discrimination law class with us here at Concord. And I wonder, do we have anyone in the graduating group who took the class? Wonderful. A very popular class and a tremendous professor. Thank you, Joel, for being with us today. Also with us today is Commander of the British Empire and I suppose I should explain that, shouldn't I? I will. And Professor Arthur Miller of New York University. Now, I want to say a word or two about Arthur Miller. It's no exaggeration, none at all, to say that it's very likely Concord would not be here or have the success that it has if it weren't for that gentleman throwing his hat into the ring very, very early in the life of the school. I don't want to steal any thunder from our graduation speaker, who will tell you a little bit more about the reasons why I say that. So I'll just explain the commander comment for remarkable contributions to the cultural environment of the British Museum. Professor Miller, they don't call it a knighting. He was elevated, I think, is what they describe as. That's the proper word, I think, to the status of commander of the British Empire about a year ago. So I think it would be appropriate for us to give him a little acknowledgement for that. And we're so pleased to have you with us today. Professor Miller is our supplementary lecturer in civil procedure and intellectual property. And I know he's one of the best in the country at those things, if not the. In our audience, I'd also like to welcome back very warmly our former dean and now dean emeritus, Barry Currier, Concord's dean. Concord's dean from 2004 to 2010. Barry, your shoes are very large to fill, as I am learning every day as I continue the legacy, I hope, of the school. We so much appreciate your support and being here today. Also next to him, not to be neglected, is Professor Steve Nichols of Wake Forest. If I could ask you to stand for just a moment and be recognized. Like Professor Friedman and Professor Miller, Steve has been a tremendous supporter of what we do at Concord Law School. We're very honored to have you be a part of the ceremony today, and especially your friendship over these many years. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm sure that I've missed others to whom I apologize profusely in these introductions. I'm incredibly proud to work with all of these people, and I have to say that there's no finer group to be a part of and undertaking something like we're undertaking. On your behalf, I will applaud their work, although you can feel free to do that yourself as you have already. Thank you. I'd also like to express our appreciation to the leadership of Kaplan Incorporated, Kaplan Higher Education Group, and the Washington Post. You'll meet some folks from there in a few moments. And for their continuing support of our efforts, it's my privilege to join with all of these individuals and our students, our graduates, and the entire extended Concord family on this wonderful adventure, which I believe is profoundly impacting and reshaping American legal education. Thank you. Thank you very much. I am also very pleased to introduce Stephen Burnett, Vice President of Kaplan Legal Education. Now, Steve is a Concord person. Steve, you're on this side. I need to know which way to turn. Steve is a Concord person. Thank you. He joined us here in 2006 from Seattle University Law School, and a long career innovating in legal information services and legal education. He's gone on to great success as one of the senior executives of Kaplan University's operations, and particularly in its legal education operations. And we're very, very proud to have him here and continuing to be part of Concord Law School. Thank you. On your behalf. Now, Kaplan Legal Education includes the Legal Studies School at Kaplan University and Concord, as well as our programs in partnerships with other law schools, a growing feature of the law school. We now have partnerships including those with Loyola of Chicago, the University of Tulsa, and with Southwestern Law School here in Los Angeles. Steve is our very able leader in all of this work, and he's a tremendous asset to the organization. He earned his undergraduate degree locally, right here at UCLA, just around the block, and his JD from the University of Connecticut. In another life, Steve was also a law librarian, having earned an MSLS from Southern Connecticut State College, and then essentially inventing the library at the very highly regarded George Mason University School of Law. So please welcome, if you will, Stephen Burnett.
Thank you, Greg, for that kind and over-the-top introduction. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. I love graduations. I haven't missed one since I've been part of this. Actually, 2005, I joined Greg. It's okay though. It's all right. But let me be the first to personally congratulate all of you today for your marvelous achievement. As I've spent my whole career working in legal education after my own law school graduation. I know how hard you've worked and how much you've done and how much you've suffered, actually, for this. I did law school the old-fashioned way. I went to brick and mortar school right after college. It was the easy way. What you guys have done is the hard, really difficult way to do this. And I applaud your efforts. I salute you, and it's a great honor to share this graduation celebration with you. So, congratulations to you. As Greg said, Concord graduations are always special. Today's is even more special as we honor the first graduates, 3 of whom are here today, of our Small Business Practice Masters of Law program. Could the 3 that are here stand, please, so we can recognize you? The LLM, which began in the fall of 2010, is the first of its kind. The focus is purely small business, and the degree is designed to provide in-depth, practical knowledge of this unique sector, an important sector of our economy. The program was conceived and developed by 2 of my great friends, David Epstein, now at the University of Richmond, and Steve Nichols, who is, as you heard earlier, is with us today. Now, I could spend the next, 3 days talking about how Steve and I know each other. We've known each other for over 20 years. We've developed things in technology and the legal profession during that time that that have been incredibly successful. And it's all his brain power, all his vision. He is the most visionary law school professor in a traditional school. I'm not going to not say these guys aren't pretty visionary too, but in a traditional sense, he's an incredible friend and a mentor to me in a lot of ways. So I really appreciate him coming. In my mind, there's no better person in the country to develop this program. And Steve, as Greg mentioned, is at Wake Forest University. He's a chaired professor in both the law school and the business school. And he also teaches in the divinity school at Wake Forest, which might seem unrelated to this enterprise. But when you think about it, small businesses sometimes need divine intervention to survive. So Steve brought this unique focus to the LLM course development to give our students a program that is decidedly relevant and practical. And I would also like to acknowledge Ellen Murphy, who I believe is on the podium someplace. There she is. Ellen is a Concord professor, and she's the director of the LLM program. She's also a Wake Forest graduate, Wake Forest Law School graduate. Has something to do with Steve down there. I'm not exactly certain what, but anyway, I want to just acknowledge Ellen's blend of legal skills, business savvy, plus her North Carolina charm. It's gotten this program off to a great start, so thank you so much, Ellen. We're also pleased to have a number of members of the Kaplan University family with us today. Among them is my friend and my boss, Wade Dyke. Dr. Dyke is president of Kaplan University. He's a former Rhodes Scholar and White House Fellow, holds a doctorate in politics and a Bachelor of Arts in Politics and Economics from Oxford University. He also received a Bachelor of Business Administration from the University of Wisconsin, and he was an assistant professor of public administration at, I think they say, the Ohio State University, don't they? Yes. And is a member of Phi Kappa Phi and Beta Gamma Sigma honor societies. Wade, please come to the podium and say a few words on behalf of the university to our graduates and acknowledge our other guests from Kaplan.
Steve has no boss. Thank you very much, Steve. It's a pleasure to work with Steve and the entire Kaplan University family. And on behalf of that family, welcome graduates and congratulations. Kaplan University and Concord Law School joined together in 2007, bringing together two pioneers in innovation and education. KU, now 75 years old, among the first to offer programs online, and then, of course, Concord Law School, the first online law school, and then, together with KU, the first online law school that was part of a regionally accredited university. A big part of the past, present, and future of access to legal and higher education is in this room. And you've heard a lot of the names. Dean Brandis, Vice President Burnett, President Rosen, who we'll hear from in a moment, Professor Miller, Dean Currier. You have in this room a collection of people who've thought hard and long about how to improve legal education. So to all of you, thank you for all you've done on behalf of the law and our graduates. It says in the mission statement of Concord Law School that we shall teach with enthusiasm. That's quite a statement. And from all I see of the faculty and staff of Concord Law School, how true that is. Graduates, I know you appreciate them, as do we all. But ultimately, thanks to your work and determination and talent, you got here today. And I look forward to hearing more about you in the weeks and months ahead. I hope you will stay in touch and after a suitably short break, continue to embrace the law and the opportunity and good that it brings to our society. In leading Kaplan University, I'm joined by a wonderful Board of Trustees. That Board of Trustees, I'm going to take a moment, if you'll allow me to introduce them. Seated over behind me, our Chair, Kay Runge of Iowa. Gregory Marino here, CEO of Kaplan Higher Education. Lisa Geffen-Sicilian, Chief Administrative Officer of Kaplan Higher Education Group. Professor Paul Bott, University of California System. Lieutenant General retired Norm Leasy, the United States Air Force. And Lucian Gosselin of Maine, leader in community development in Auburn and Lewiston. And while we're at it, I'll also want to introduce our provost of Kaplan University, Betty Vanden Bosch. And last but by no means least, I want to introduce the gentleman seated right here, Mr. Larry David. Larry is our vice chairman of the board. But even better than that, he is a graduate of Concord Law School. Since graduating, he's established his own practice here in the Los Angeles area, and he devotes many hours to pro bono cases. He has been honored many times for that work, including last year, named Volunteer of the Year by the LA County Bar Association. Please welcome my friend, colleague, favorite alum, and about to be your fellow alum, Larry David.
Good morning. That wasn't very good. Let's try that again. Good morning. Good morning. It's much better. I trust you all who spent last Tuesday through Thursday attending the State Bar's biannual fun-filled get-together are well on your ways to recovery. It's been a number of years since I was there, and I still haven't recovered. Last weekend, to get serious for a moment, I spent a few days with a lifelong friend that I first met during my freshman year of college in August of 1962. Since then, I have been thinking a great deal about how I got from there to here. It all began when I returned from the United States in 1995 from an approximate 10-year stint in Hong Kong, where I was involved in a number of different businesses. Upon my return, I retired to watch, along with my wife Beverly, who's somewhere around here, our two sons grow up. At the same time, I looked into attending law school. It was something I'd always wanted to do, but had never had the opportunity. My 1995 quest was short-lived, as I found that the cost of a fixed facility law school didn't justify what would most likely turn out to be a hobby. Then, on November 22nd, 1999, which parenthetically happens to be my sister's birthday, I read the Wall Street Journal article about Professor Arthur Miller from Harvard Law School, who had provided 11 courses to this thing called Concord University School of Law. And apparently Harvard was a little bit upset. It was that article that brought me to Concord and gave me a whole new life and career. Professor Miller, let me offer you my belated thank you. Aside from Professor Miller, a number of other personalities, Dean Getz, the founding dean of Concord, Dean Emeritus Barry Currier, Dean Brandis, Donna Skibby, Martha Siegel, Bob Hull, Steve Bracci, and these are all names I know you have heard, and others contributed to the success of my law school education. Also to be included in this list, not directly, but every bit as significantly, is a gentleman who will be our speaker this morning. I have it on good authority that he grew up in Summit, New Jersey, attending the same school system from kindergarten through high school. Now, we all in California know that that's impossible to do. He graduated high school in 1978. I need to point out 16 years after I did. And went on to Duke University, where he received an AB degree and where he also met his wife. Parenthetically, my oldest son went to Boston College. My youngest son went to Wake Forest University. Both happen to be in the Atlantic Coast Conference, as is Duke. However, rest assured that I have not and will not hold our speaker's somewhat questionable choice of university against him. He went on to Yale Law School, earning a JD degree, a degree that to many of us is very dear to our hearts. After law school, he went on to clerk for the Honorable Levin H. Campbell, Chief Judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals in Boston, which is the First Circuit. In 1986, he became a staff attorney for the Washington Post Company and then became assistant counsel for Newsweek, a Washington Post publication. In 1992, he joined Kaplan, Inc. He served in various management positions and other leadership roles in its businesses and at the company-wide level before being named chairman and chief executive officer of Kaplan, Inc. in 2008. It was in 1997-98 that Kaplan, Inc. was approached by Dean Getz with the crazy idea of starting an online law school. Our speaker was one of the Kaplan executives who received Dean Getz's presentation and apparently approved of going forward. He has been the focal point of support within Kaplan for Concord Law School ever since. In his spare time, he authored Change.edu, Rebooting for the New Talent Economy, which details a history of innovation in American higher education and lays out a prescription for restoring its preeminence by focusing anew on the goals of learning outcomes, access, affordability, and accountability. He has been a colleague of mine since 2008, and I am proud to consider him a friend as well. Please join me in welcoming the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Kaplan, Inc., Andy Rosen.
Well, thank you, Larry. That was very nice of you. And I have to say, I think the first introduction that started with kindergarten, and that got me a little worried. I'm sure it got you worried as well. But it means a lot to me, Larry, for those nice words. And in fact, you offered such nice words that I think I want to talk about Larry a little bit and give you a little more background on him, because Larry is an unusual fellow of the type that you often see associated with Concord and with Kaplan. Now, quite a few years ago, you can do the math, he gave you a hint, Larry got his MBA from here in town at USC, and he went to work in the liquor industry. Now, he turned out he was very good at the liquor industry, and so much so that he worked his way up to a CEO role. And then suddenly he tossed that career aside and began to work in a small computer company. Now, this is back in 1982, and you know, back in 1982, everyone knew there was going to be a market for liquor. And now, I can tell you, I personally knew this because I graduated from college in 1982, and I had just spent the last 4 years becoming an important part of that market. But whether there was a real market for computers at that time was still a matter of debate. So you can be sure that everybody Larry knew thought he was nuts to leave a sure thing for something so speculative. Well, it turns out that he did well at that small computer company, so much so that they asked him to move to Hong Kong and open up the China market, which is how Larry became the first employee of Apple Computer in China and the managing director of Apple Computer International. That crazy idea to leave a great career in a stable industry for an upstart computer company launched a 28-year entrepreneurial career while running mostly his own businesses in the U.S. and the Far East. And then, as he suggested, in 2001, just when everything was going great, he tossed aside that business career to do something he'd always wanted to do, go to law school. Now, with his background, Larry could have gone to pretty much any law school in the country. But after years of traveling around the world, he wanted to stay home and focus on his family. And while he was rich, he was also cheap. And he didn't want to pay an inflated price for his degree. So he did his research, as he said, and he found a school with high quality that let him study from home. A school that was upending the way people thought about legal education. Larry was in the third graduating class here at Concord, and he's used his Concord degree to build a wonderfully successful law firm that combines a general commercial practice with the widely praised pro bono program that Steve described, that has made a real difference in the lives of children and the victims of domestic violence. Larry has had an extraordinary set of careers because he never let others narrow his vision. At every stage, the conventional wisdom said he was doing the wrong thing. He shouldn't leave the liquor business. He shouldn't leave Apple's headquarters in Cupertino and go all the way over to Asia. He shouldn't leave his businesses to go to law school. He shouldn't go to a new online law school. Well, the mythologist Joseph Campbell once wrote, "If you can see your past laid out in front of you, step by step, you know it's not your path. Your own path you make with every step you take. That's why it's your path." It's funny, but the world will almost always tell you to stay on their path, the one that's laid out for you step by step. But life's delights come from using your own mind and your own heart to develop your own path. For Larry, that's what made his story remarkable. And since he graduated from Concord, Larry has stayed very involved in the school, and that's no surprise because he really is a kindred spirit. Concord's very existence is a testament to people who refuse to let others narrow their vision. And the most independent thinker of them all was our founding dean, Jack Getz. It's hard to describe today, at a time when online education is celebrated as the future of higher education, how shocking Jack's idea to build an online law school was in the late 1990s. If I told you that we had arranged for a personal jetpack to take each of you to lunch after the graduation ceremony, you would be no more skeptical than people were in 1998 about the possibility of teaching the law online. Remember that the last great innovation in legal education before Concord was in 1870, when Dean Langdell of Harvard Law School started to introduce the case method. This is not a market that believes in the urgency of innovation. Now, I went to a traditional law school, and I have to admit, when Jack raised the idea of an online law school to me, I was skeptical. But fortunately, Jack had had a lot of good ideas in the past, and so I was at least smart enough to say I would hear him out as he went and outlined the goals of a legal education, how a traditional law school aspires to meet them, and he then explained how you could deconstruct the law school experience and rebuild it online with results that are as good or better. I thought then, and I think now, that Jack's vision represented one of the most important advances in educational innovation in the last 20 years. Jack's idea stunned the legal education world. When we launched Concord, it seemed every newspaper, certainly every legal publication, wrote about it. And of course, most of them thought it was the end of the world as they knew it. For many, it was the first time they had truly thought about the possibilities of online education. The Wall Street Journal had an article which was devoted to describing online education in kind of the methodical way that you might use if you were explaining the Super Bowl to a North Korean visitor who had never seen a television set, much less football or the Anheuser-Busch Clydesdales. At the end of the article, the reporter couldn't stop himself from quoting from one observer who said when he heard about the start of Concord, he thought it was an April Fool's joke. While that observer snickered about Concord, parts of the academic community expressed deep concern and sometimes even anger about the new school. No less than Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg gave a speech in which she pronounced herself, quote, deeply troubled by ventures like Concord, where, she said, students study in isolation without ever laying eyes on a fellow student or professor. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer said, all truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. That has been the Concord story. Disparaged at its founding nearly 15 years ago, Concord catalyzed the most transformational higher education movement of this generation. Essentially, all of the universities that criticize Concord now find it self-evident and offer online programs themselves. Even our most elite institutions like Stanford and MIT are taking up the movement using what are known as massively open online courses, or MOOCs. Today, almost 7 million students in higher ed take an online course. That's about a third of our students in higher ed. It is now broadly accepted that online will be a central tool for solving the key problems of higher education: costs that are too high, quality that is too low, and too little accountability. Would this have happened without Concord? Maybe, probably, eventually. But there's no question that the founding of Concord was a pivotal moment in the development of online education. And if Jack had followed the path that the world wanted followed, he'd never have presented Concord. Jack followed his own heart and his own mind, even when others strongly opposed him. And the world is better off because he didn't let others narrow his vision. Of course, there's a difference between an idea and a program. And once Jack got the go-ahead to start Concord, he had quite a few operational challenges that he had to deal with. And a big one at the start was, how do you build a faculty? Now, Jack's idea here was that because his school was online, he could provide access for Concord students to the very best faculty members in the country, selecting from among traditional law schools. And so he steadily went about bringing on board some fantastic talents from schools around the country as lecturers. And among those he reached out to, as Greg indicated, was perhaps the most famous law school and the professor at the time, Arthur Miller. Now, Arthur was at the time one of the true titans of Harvard Law School. He was well known to the general public through his television show, Miller's Court, and his role as a popular legal commentator on the news. For much of his career, he had sought to expand access to legal knowledge, and when Jack called, after the amount of negotiation you'd expect from a law professor, he signed on to deliver lectures in civil procedure. He did so because he saw that the vision for Concord was, in truth, the future of education. Unfortunately, Harvard Law School didn't see it that way. They didn't much like the notion of online education. And they definitely didn't like the idea of their star professor teaching for 2 law schools at the same time. The dean, backed by much of the faculty, sought to bar Arthur from teaching for Concord. When Arthur pointed out that everyone on faculty at Harvard has other things that they're doing, and that there was no rule that prohibited them from doing so, Harvard changed its rules. And they put heavy pressure on Arthur to sever his relationship with Concord. The battle divided the faculty at Harvard and put Arthur in the crosshairs of a fight that played out not just in Cambridge, but again, because these were all new issues in the media. And you heard the reference that Larry had of the article that he read in the Wall Street Journal in November 1999. I'd recommend that you Google that and take a look, because it's really was quite something, all about the dispute among Arthur, Harvard Law School, and Concord. But Arthur stuck to his guns, arguing that he, not Harvard, owned his own teaching. He extended his Concord lectures to courses in copyright and complex litigation. He co-taught a seminar in law information and technology. And in doing so, he created opportunity for thousands of Concord students, but also established an important early precedent for professors in the online era. Arthur came under excruciating pressure to drop Concord. Frankly, most professors would have caved. But Arthur refused to let others narrow his vision for expanding access to legal education. He followed his own path, and we've all benefited. Concord is an institution of independent thinkers. I've mentioned Larry and Jack and Arthur, but I could go on. Dean Brandis, Dean Emeritus Currier, Donna Skibby, Martha Siegel, Bob Hull, Steve Bracci, and many, many more. Each of them has cut across the grain and extended Concord into the great institution it is today. But what really makes Concord an institution of independent thinkers is you. There is not one graduate here for whom Concord was laid out as the obvious next step. You ignored the beaten path and chose a new one for yourself. And that's hard. I went to law school because I wanted to make a difference in the world, and yet I remember when I was coming upon graduation, there was enormous pressure on everyone to take the hardest and most selective job you could get. I found myself succumbing to the pressure and interviewing with big New York law firms, not because it was my dream, but because that's what I was expected to do. I had to fight hard to resist that pressure. And ultimately and wonderfully, I took a job with the Washington Post, and that later led to a job at Newsweek, which at the time was a thriving, prestigious place to work. But a few years later, I guess I don't know that I saw into the future, but a few years later, I left the law to work in a manager's job at Kaplan. My friends couldn't believe that I was leaving this blossoming legal career at a well-respected company to work in a small, struggling, money-losing outfit, which is what Kaplan was at that time. Now, I did have one advantage, which is my wife backed me. And my gosh, if you can have the support of your spouse, that really trumps everything. And that was true for me. That's 20 years ago, and it's turned out to be the best professional move I ever made. Today, the legal market is a tough one. You can read plenty of articles questioning the value of a law school education. The average law school student emerges from a private law school with $120,000 worth of debt, and many can't find legal jobs. I'm sure people have emailed you these articles over time and talked about the law school bubble. But the fact that you're at Concord shows that you get the issue. America hasn't become a nation less focused on law. The nation doesn't need fewer people who understand the law. We need more. What we need is to stop forcing people to quit their jobs, move their families, and spend $150,000 or more just to get a legal education. What our country needs, and with Concord has, is an option that lets students spend less than a third of that amount, go to law school while keeping their jobs and staying in their homes, and then apply their learning not just to legal practice, but also to their existing jobs or new jobs that leverage their new education. In short, our country may need fewer people going to overpriced, ineffectual, old-style law schools and more people like you, people who fold legal education into their ongoing lives and emerge with the skills to do a lot of things. Take on new responsibilities at work, start a new business, run for office, lead a nonprofit, teach, or practice law. Most people don't understand that, and there may be people who didn't understand your decision to go back to law school. But that's okay, because you're not traveling on their path. You're traveling on yours. You're not required to constrain your vision to meet others' expectations. Your job is to expand your vision to meet your own expectations. You know, years ago, Larry's old company, Apple, ran a memorable ad that said, "Here's to the crazy ones, the rebels, the troublemakers, the ones who see things differently. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." Well, this is a room full of crazy ones. Thank God for that. because each one of you is going to go out and change the world in ways none of us can imagine today, just as the 1,700 Concord grads who preceded you have done. Congratulations, Concord class of 2013. I can't wait to see the paths you blaze from here. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Andy, thank you so much. Just incredible, wonderful, inspiring thoughts for us today. We're really honored by you being here, and as we've announced by so many other wonderful colleagues and friends from so many years being with us today, thank you so much for your support over all these years. Well, the big moment has finally arrived. Now it's time. You ready? Now it's time to confer the degrees. First, we'll confer them, and then we're going to ask that all the graduates come forward to the stage and receive their diplomas. So will the EJD graduates please stand? The executive Juris Doctor manifests that the holder has completed a rigorous course of study covering the basic subjects, concepts, and principles of law and the role of law and the legal profession. By the authority vested in me by the State of California, the faculty of Concord Law School, I confer upon you and all the other EJD graduates whose names are listed in the program and who've met the program requirements, the degree of Executive Juris Doctor, with all the rights and privileges thereunto appertaining. Congratulations. Will you please join me in congratulating the 2013. All right, you can be seated. All right, well, will the Juris Doctor graduates please stand? I should have done this with the EJD group. It's a really good-looking group. If you're looking at them from here, you want to turn around, just sort of wave to everybody before we do this? You can, if you like. There you go. The Juris Doctor degree signifies that a person has completed a comprehensive and rigorous course of study in the subject matter, principles, and skills necessary to be an effective lawyer and contributing member of the legal profession. Completion of a Juris Doctor is something that takes incredible talent and intellectual curiosity and commitment. Congratulations to each of you today for being here and your accomplishments. Thank you. By the authority vested in me by the State of California, and on behalf of the faculty of Concord Law School, I confer upon you and all the other JD graduates listed in the program who have met the program requirements the degree of Juris Doctor with all the rights and privileges thereunto appertaining. Congratulations. Will you please join me? Please be seated. And will the LLM graduates please stand? The Master of Laws degree signifies that a JD graduate having completed an advanced law degree program in a designated course of study, has deep substantive knowledge and advanced lawyering skills in that area of practice. Completion of an LLM credentials a lawyer as an expert in that area to consumers of legal services and to the entire legal community. Congratulations to all of you for taking that next step today. Thank you so much for being here to do it. By the authority vested in me by the state of California and on behalf of the faculty of Concord Law School, I confer upon you and all the other LLM graduates listed in the program who have met the program requirements, just one more. I think you guys get the award for the percentage showing up at the graduation. I should parenthetically add 2 of them are Concord Law School JD graduates, at least as well. 2, perhaps more. At least 2, I know. I confer upon you and all the other LLM graduates who have met the requirements the degree of Master of Laws with all the rights and privileges thereunto appertaining. Will you please join me in congratulating our Master of Laws graduates today. Very proud. All right. Will the graduates now please come forward to receive their diplomas?
Thank you, Katsui. And today it's my honor and privilege to read the names of our EJD graduates who are joining us. Christine R. Boucher with honors. Richard Allen Burton. Leslie Tennille Strickland Harris. Joseph Anthony Jackson, Jr. Kevin Michael Mahoney. Matthew Donovan Portner with highest honors. Rosalind Michelle Simpson. And we have a member joining us from the other side, Swakshi Sinha. Suzanne Sitter. Naima Rukan Ubada. This concludes our EJD graduates who've been able to join us today. Congratulations, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Berman, and there's a bunch of you out there who I've had the honor and privilege of working with for a long time now. And I know the last couple months have been particularly long, and we are all so proud of you. Linda L. Alexander. Joshua Earl Alford. Teresa Lee Belleville. Alina Breslov. Carla A. Burris. Daryl G. Krause. Walter Thomas Gardepy. Enriqueta Q. Helland. One of my 1Ls. Sergio Jimenez with honors. Sunghyun Alex Kim. Cheryl Eugene Nippers. Olga Koplik. Gary Allen Louder. Diane A. Lenning. Letitia F. Logan. Maria Delia Maldonado. Jason Lee Moore. Ree Nakatani. Zachary Dawson Parrott. Ruth S. Pierce with highest honors. Yvonne Keith Perkins. Nadja Povitage. Nicolae Raşcov. Robin Joan L. Riggs. Shelby L. Van Kirk Schaefer. Susan B. Stewart. Eurydice Candida Prince Turk with honors. James Sheen Wong with honors. William Frank White. Tammy L. Williams. Patricia Ann Wilson with honors. Vincent E. Rencher Sr. Yu Young with honors. Michael Shane Young. Jill Youngblood. David Urechko with honors. David William Leonard with highest honors. Kelly Jean Morris with highest honors. Michelle Janae Scott with highest honors.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winter 2013 Concord Law School graduating class. Wow. Well, as is usually the case in life, anything worth doing is worth doing with or for someone else. So we like to take a few moments to make that point by following a tradition begun by our former and now Dean Emeritus, Barry Currier, which I think makes a real statement about who we are as a law school. We'll see how this goes. Let me ask each graduate who is a son or daughter to please stand. Good job. Well done. That was not the hardest test we gave you at law school. Let's just leave it at that. All right, you can sit back down. We would really be breaking some new ground if we didn't. All right, now would everyone who's a parent please stand? And if I can ask everyone who has a child still here with you today to remain standing and others to be seated, please. That's ready. Turn around. Say hello. All right. Now, will any of the grandparents among the group remain standing? And again, if you have grandchildren here with you today, wave. Anybody? Grandchildren. Well, it's really fun to see what happens there. In addition to children and parents, of course, many of you have spouses or partners or close friends or others who've been with you on this journey. So we appreciate all of them and all of you. Yes. All the tremendous support that you provided them is just incredible to us, and we appreciate it so much. Well, now we will take a few moments to recognize the particular accomplishments of several of these graduates. Our graduation program lists the awards, I should add, which are a surprise to the recipients. I would ask my colleagues who are presenting them to simply come forward to the podium in the order the awards are listed, introduce yourselves, and make the presentation.
Thank you, Dean Brandis. I'm Professor Rob Barrett, and I direct Concord's clinical placement programs. In them, upper division students do the legal equivalent of medical internships. They go out into the legal environment, and under the supervision of an attorney or a judge, they do essentially the same work they will do as lawyers. Students love this program. They're out in the world getting their first taste of the real thing. And they invariably pay me the left-handed compliment of saying, "Professor, my placement was so much more interesting than my other boring classwork," forgetting that one of their other boring classes was probably taught by me. Ladies and gentlemen, in your program, you may have noticed on the inside back cover, at the top, several awards listed. Today, I have the honor of presenting the Kaplan Legal Services Award, and here's what it says in the program. The Kaplan Award for Legal Services is presented to the Concord graduate or graduates who have demonstrated excellence in professionalism and exemplary service to the community through his or her legal education experience program or EJD practicum. As externs, Concord students provide great value to the organization they serve and further the law school's reputation in the legal community. Now, over the years, our students have done a wide variety of internships in both the public and private sectors. They have clerked for judges, one of the most prestigious placements a student can obtain, private lawyers, the American Bar Association, criminal prosecutors, defense counsel, public service organizations, and of course, no self-respecting LA-based law school would be complete without at least one Hollywood placement. One of our former students interned at Court TV, and she was a senior associate producer there for many years, as I understand it. This year, our students did a remarkable range of internships. Laura Brown externed at the state's attorney's office in Polk County, Florida. That handles criminal prosecutions, advises grand juries, and represents the Florida Department of Revenue in child support enforcement matters. Carla Burris worked at the law offices of Suzanne Hall Mindlin in San Diego, California, which handles medical malpractice, injury, and other civil cases. Michelle De Silva worked at the law offices of Key Westby in Thomaston, Connecticut, which specializes in representing small and medium-sized businesses in collection matters, injury cases, real estate transactions, and estate planning. John Hurtado worked at the law office of Brian P. Moquin, who, by the way, is one of our alumni, in San Jose, California, investigating and interacting with the media on what has been called a reverse Trayvon Martin case involving an African-American shooter and a Hispanic decedent. Maria Maldonado externed for the United Nations at the UN headquarters in New York, preparing a major policy analysis for its Office of Legal Affairs. William Relier worked at the law firm of Case and Dusterhoff in Beaverton, Oregon, a general practice firm handling matters ranging from corporate litigation and divorce to criminal law and estate planning. Betty Shelton worked at the offices of Douglas Rappaport in San Francisco, handling criminal defense matters, including capital murder cases where defendants face the death penalty. Patricia Wilson volunteered at the American Civil Liberties Union of Northern California's Technology and Civil Liberties Policy Program, working on electronic privacy, personal data protection, and compliance with California's Shine the Light law, enacted to address sharing customers' personal information for marketing. David Urechko worked at the Mansour Law Firm in Leesburg, Virginia, a general practice firm handling matters ranging from family law and bankruptcy to commercial litigation and criminal defense. All of our externs deserve recognition for the time they put in out there. But the Kaplan Legal Services Award is reserved for a particular category of placements. The biblical admonition, to whom much is given, much is required, applies to all of our graduates today. but it applies especially to our honorees who have not only successfully completed all aspects of the externship program, but who, in addition, have given back to the community. We have 3 Kaplan Legal Service Award recipients today. And if you were able to make the ceremony and you're here today, please come up to the stage when I call your name. Gary Nagel. Gary clerked for the Alameda County Court Family Law Division in Oakland, California, working with low-income litigants on family law, paternity, and child support matters. Eurydice Turk. Eurydice volunteered at the Pomona, California Neighborhood Legal Services Self-Help Center, assisting low-income individuals facing evictions, domestic violence, and divorce. Jill Youngblood. Jill worked at the San Diego Volunteer Lawyers Program, Vista Courthouse, Temporary Restraining Order, and Guardianship Clinic, assisting low-income individuals with domestic violence, guardianship, and other family law matters. Now, you will see on your program that there are other awards being given out today to all our honorees, not just the ones who are receiving this award. Please feel free to say a few words after your award is presented to you. Now, I know that none of you knew ahead of time that you were receiving an award, so we will understand, and we will be grateful if your thank yous are brief. Ms. Turk.
This is very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you to Professor Barrett, even for the evidence class. I'm Dr. Martha Siegel. Let me join with everyone here today in congratulating our graduates, both in the EJD and JD programs. We're also very proud of you today. It is my privilege to present the Distance Education and Training Council, DETC, Outstanding Graduate Award. The DETC Outstanding Graduate Award is presented to the graduate who has demonstrated dedication and outstanding achievement in the pursuit of an online legal education. The recipient is recognized nationally by the DETC in its Outstanding Graduates Program. The recipient of this year's award is particularly worthy. She is graduating with honors and received a Best Oral Advocate Award in Legal Analysis and Writing. She was a distinguished scholar in her first year and made Dean's List in her third year. This recipient, and I have personal knowledge, has dedicated herself to Concord and her fellow students. She has held many offices in the Student Bar Association, the SBA, including a year as president. She was active in the American Constitution Society. She has, with grace, commitment, and enthusiasm, dedicated herself to mentoring and counseling other Concord students. Many students here today, and others yet to come, will graduate in large measure because of her efforts. This year's recipient is a perfect exemplar of the DETC Award. She has devoted herself to technology and to the mission of online legal education. She's a role model for all who follow in her footsteps, and Concord is a better place for her contributions here. Pat Wilson.
Wow, this is quite the surprise. Thank you all, everybody who helped me get here and through this whole process. And thank you to Miriam and Liz and Sherry, past SBA people, and thank you to Kim and present SBA people, and thank you, faculty, who got me through. Anyway, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Professor Steve Bracci, and it is now my honor to present the Sue Lane Award. I've been privileged to present this award at each Concord graduation, and it's something that I always look forward to very, very much because it allows me to help keep alive the memory of a very dear friend, Sue Lane. As the program states, Sue was the first registrar at Concord and an early champion of online legal education. You heard President Rosen mention some of the people who played a role in building Concord. Sue's name certainly belongs on that list. Sue worked tirelessly to help build this institution. But she was so much more than that. Many of us on the stage worked with Sue in a number of different ventures before we all came together here at Concord, and we knew Sue as being an incredible woman with an unbelievable work ethic. Each time, I like to tell a little story about Sue to try and illustrate the kind of woman she was. And I think this one is apropos in light of the award winner today. This is a story I've told before, but it certainly bears repeating. Sue would not allow anything to stop her from doing what she felt needed to be done. And as she was suffering from the illness that eventually led to our loss of Sue, the doctors informed her that she would have to undergo a round of chemotherapy. And they said, that's a pretty strong chemotherapy, and it's going to knock you out for a couple days after you take it. Well, Sue wouldn't hear of that. At Sue's insistence, she would go to the hospital early in the morning and be fitted up with a portable chemotherapy bag. She would then drive from the hospital about 40 miles to the office, being at her desk when she was supposed to be, when the workday started, working a full day, leaving at the end of the day, driving the 40 miles back through LA traffic to the hospital to have the chemotherapy bag and equipment removed. And she would be at her desk the next morning, ready to work another full day. Sue was an absolutely amazing woman. Unfortunately, Sue never got to see one of these graduations. She would have loved it. She would have been very proud of all of you. So this award was created to honor Sue's memory by recognizing a student that shows that same commitment and dedication that Sue demonstrated in everything she did. And we have, I think, once again, a very, very worthy recipient. And I think this is best illustrated by his own words that he wrote when he applied to Concord. As a professional, my greatest accomplishment was on February 21st, 2002, when I was sworn in as a police officer. This day marked a time in my life in which I felt accomplished and thus validated all of the adversities that I faced to accomplish this goal. Perhaps, however, this day gave me the belief that I can achieve greater success in my life. I recall seeing my mother with teary eyes while witnessing the swearing-in ceremony. Now that I have children of my own, I can understand her tears of joy. My mother's sacrifices paid off. Who would have thought that I was going to be a law enforcement officer? I came to the United States at the age of 7. My mother bought a small taco truck where she worked from 7 a.m. to midnight and frequently much later. My sister and I worked in the taco truck because our mother would not let us free in our gang-infested neighborhood. 4 out of the 5 good friends I had in elementary school were in prison at the time I was sworn in, including my best friend from elementary through junior high school. I recall questioning whether what I was doing was worth the effort. My friends, of course, were having a great time in parties while I was either working, in school, volunteering, time at the police department, or studying. Yet deep inside me, I knew I was meant to accomplish great things in life. In hindsight, the day I was sworn in was not the day I became victorious. It was simply the day I was rewarded for my efforts. I was victorious every day when I remained resolute to my definite purpose. I was victorious when I did not yield to the temptations of an easy life. I was victorious when my ambitions, desires, and goals meant much more to me than ephemeral self-indulgence. It is my belief that the difference between men who achieve their goals and those who do not is having a definite purpose in life and constantly reminding themselves of such. It is easy to lose focus and divert one's energies, but those with a commitment to achieve their goals at whatever cost can only be stopped by their own will. The day I was sworn in marked a special day in my life. It marked a great accomplishment. This day now holds another different meaning, a stepping stone to another goal. I now have the definite purpose to expand my knowledge of the field of law and become an attorney. I have a clear vision of becoming a competent, ethical, and highly skilled attorney and run a successful law firm in my local community. That's what he wrote when he applied at Concord. While at Concord, he continued to distinguish himself by showing that high level of commitment and dedication. When I talked with some of his other professors about him, they used the same words to describe him that I would use based on my interaction with this gentleman. Dedicated, responsible, and extremely hardworking. He was part of our trainer moot court competition team. Now, for those unfamiliar with moot court, this competition is always conducted by teams. Unfortunately, shortly before the competition, his partner had an accident and could not compete. This student decided to go ahead and compete alone, the only solo litigant in the competition. This is somewhat unheard of. That in and of itself was a daunting task, but he went on to win an award for Best Individual Performance. Further demonstrating his level of commitment and dedication during his time at Concord, he made the dean's list 4 times and today graduated with honors. And probably most impressive of all, he managed to earn a B from me in remedies. Nobody does that. I know Sue is very proud that her award is being given to such a worthy recipient who embodies everything that was Sue Lane. I'm very proud and honored to present the Sue Lane Award to Sergio Jimenez.
Thank you so much. I'm incredibly overwhelmed with emotion. Thank you to my family, to my wife, to my mother, to the faculty. To me personally, Concord represents an opportunity. But for Concord, clearly, but for Concord, I would have never realized this dream. Working 40 hours a week, the 3 children, and lots of responsibilities, it would have never happened. And so to me, it just represents an opportunity, and I achieved it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Bracci. I'm Dean Stacy Sharp, one of the Assistant Dean of Students and the Director of EJD Student Affairs. Congratulations to all of you today. I also want to take a moment to congratulate those that are listening to this online. So if you can turn around, find a camera, and there's one up there. Let's all give a round of applause to those listening at home. I am here to present the Executive Juris Doctorate Award in Academic Excellence. This award is given to a student in our EJD program who achieved the highest GPA in their graduation group. They must have achieved at least a 3.0, and this student certainly did, achieving a cumulative GPA of a 3.32, edging one of you out of the award by 0.02. The EJD program offers a solid legal education. Students who graduate from our program will share their stories of its challenges and rigors. They attended the same classes as our JD students, and they learned from the same terrific professors. Our recipient today graduated with highest honors, receiving a Distinguished Scholar Award 1 term and Dean's List for 2 terms. Our recipient today didn't just do well at Concord. He came to us as a distinguished gentleman. In 1991, he attended Ashland University as a graduate student with a background in biological sciences. His intention was to gain teaching certification while at the same time pursue a master's in education degree. However, within that year, he was offered a graduate assistant position in a newly formed department, recycling services. Within no time, he became the Director of Environmental Health and Safety, dealing with compliance issues in the areas of hazard communications, bloodborne pathogens, and medical and first aid services. After great success in this area of the university, he quickly became the bookstore manager. That then led him to auxiliary services, where he coordinates 12 service departments, manages a budget of millions of dollars, and supervises hundreds of employees. He never expected a career in higher education administration, but his dedication and hard work led to this success, just as he accomplished today. When asked of his plans for the future, he hopes to put his administrative hat down just for a little bit and wear a teaching one in law-related undergraduate studies. Please join me in congratulating Matthew Portner.
Well, I come from the land of snow. It's been a long trip, and I mean that geographically and intellectually, so thank you.
My name is Arthur Miller. I rise to present the award for academic excellence. It's an award that is in honor of the founding dean of Concord, Jack R. Getz. I must tell you that when you reach the twilight of your senility, as I have, you become reflective. Sometimes you reflect in private, sometimes you are forced to reflect in public. Today is one of those days in which I've been forced to reflect in public. You try to tote up the rights and the wrongs of your life and all the doubts you may have had. And then you're told, here's an award, why don't you give it out in honor of Jack Getz? Well, Jack Getz is the man who brought you here. Jack Getz is the man who brought me here. When Jack Getz called me way back in 98, maybe even earlier, 94 or 5, and said, would you like to help build an online law school? I trusted Jack. It's as simple as that. We had done some things together, and I trusted him. And I also believed in the underlying precept that education should not require you to go to it. That many people are best educated and can only be educated if the education goes to them. So I signed on. What is that, 18, 19, 20 years ago? And here it is, here it is, here it is. So this morning I had to listen to Larry. If you hang around Concord, you listen to Larry a lot. And because Larry read this damn Wall Street Journal article about my fight with Harvard Law School, it motivated him to come to Concord. Now, how does that make me feel? Proud? Honored? Or have I contributed to the delinquency of a minor? Then I listened to Andy. Andy gave you this nauseatingly long blow-by-blow description of each and every blow I sustained, each clubbing I took. Stupid, get back on the beaten path. And that's what it really was all about. But being obstinate, I didn't get back on the beaten path. So as I listened to Andy, I could feel each of those wounds opening up. But then I thought, Greg said, you now bring the Concord total to 1,768. So I said to myself, I've helped in some modest way 1,768 people get a quality legal education to do with what you wish. And when that thought permeated my thinking, it was amazing. Each and every one of those wounds that Andy opened up they all instantly healed. So I am proud to be here. Now, this award, the Jack R. Getz Award, is presented to the graduate of each JD class who achieved the highest cumulative grade point average. Us old Latins would call that the valedictorian. In my book, each and every one of you, knowing some of the stories, each and every one of you is a valedictorian. Now, graduating first in your class is a very significant achievement in any law school. At Concord, most of you are working full-time, family, have many responsibilities. And juggling those responsibilities and graduating at the top of your class is a rather extraordinary feat. Now, I understand that today's Getz Award winner works full-time in the financial industry, travels for her work, has been active in the Student Bar Association throughout the years at Concord, and became a grandmother in law school. I got to tell you, It took me 30 plus years after law school to become a grandfather. So that's one hell of an achievement to do it while in law. She's ahead of me by over 30 years. She won first-year honors in all subjects. She was Dean's List 1 year and Distinguished Scholar for all 3 years. And she's graduating today with highest honors. And she's a Brit. And being a commander of the Order of the British Empire, I love those Brits. Of course, you all know there is no empire anymore. Okay, your valedictorian is Ruth Pierce.
Wow. Okay, that wasn't very articulate. I apologize. So, good Lord. I'm valedictorian, and I hear that from Arthur Miller. Wow. That's just... Ooh. Okay, so I do need to thank some people. I'm sorry, I am going to speak. I apologize ahead of time. The one person I'm not allowed to name is Gareth, so I will only talk about him as the question master. I could not have done this without him, and he's been a staunch supporter throughout, so thank you, question master. I can't remember who it was that mentioned it at the beginning, but we always have the friend who looks at us as if to say, really, you're going down that path? She's here today to see me graduate. She flew in from the East Coast, so thank you, Caroline, for coming. And then how do I begin to thank Liz Bush, my moot court partner, from that great experience that we had that I wouldn't have participated in if it wasn't for her. Sherry, that she introduced me to, who has been sending me endless encouraging emails saying, you can keep going. Miriam, of course, all the SBA people. Pat Wilson, who has studied with me throughout since the first year. Everybody here, I hear all the names mentioned, and I'm like, well, that person affected me with something. So every one of you, I look at all of you sitting here, and I'm just so proud to just be one of you. And just remember, getting a law degree from Concord is a privilege, not a right.
Well, that was very exciting. Congratulations again to all of our award winners. Well, it's a Concord tradition at these graduations that we have often the privilege to witness previous Concord Law School graduates become the newest members of the State Bar of California. We're fortunate today because this has always proven to be a really tremendous moment and very inspirational for all of our recent bar takers, I hope, for all of us connected to the school, too. With us today to administer the oath of admission is the Honorable Tom Lavoie. Judge Lavoie spent 17 years on the bench of the Superior Court of San Diego. The soon-to-be bar members are Concord graduates Sherry Andrews, Liz Bush, and Sharon Garshak. And on a personal note, come on, right up on them. And on a personal note, I'd like to add, Liz, I understand that the judge today is your proud uncle, and that's very exciting. And we're really, really pleased to have him be with us today. All right, Your Honor, I'll turn it over to you.
I just want to say it's a real privilege and an honor to be invited here to this incredibly wonderful ceremony. And isn't it fantastic? Just wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me. Okay, I want you to raise your right hands, counsel, and swear after me. I solemnly swear or affirm
I solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of an attorney
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of an attorney
and counselor of law
and counselor of law
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
I'd like to welcome you to the bar of the State of
Well, to conclude our ceremony, we have one more special event. Dean Siegel. I wonder if you'd join me at the podium for a moment. Folks, as you may have noticed, we have kind of a tradition here that Dean Siegel helps the dean present the degrees when the graduates cross the stage. And I have a little job for Dean Siegel today. I'd also like to ask that Dean Emeritus Barry Currier and Vice President Donna Skibby join me on the stage at this time, if you would. And while they're coming forward, I wonder if I could also ask for some help from Andy Rosen, Dean Hull, Dean Bracci, Dean Sharp, Grant Moncur, if you're in the audience, and Valerie Knight, also, if you're in the audience, if you join us on the stage and me here at the podium. And finally, if I could ask Professor and Commander Arthur Miller to step forward, I'd appreciate that as well. While everyone is assembled, I have a couple of thoughts to share. If Concord's mission had to be summarized in one word, that word would be opportunity. You heard it from Sergio earlier in the day in his speech. Wonderful speech, I would add. You, our most recent graduates, in your footsteps, your classmates who came before you, those who will follow you, they all came here seeking that kind of opportunity, the wonderful opportunity that advanced higher education offers to people. You looked for knowledge and skills, a credential to be proud of, to learn and to better yourselves and to make your families so very proud as they are certainly today. And now, you will soon be using your degrees to help make this world a better place. You're pioneers and explorers. And as Andy Rosen mentioned, you refused to make that outmoded 20th century choice of going to a traditional school. Instead, you worked and went to this school. You embraced innovation. You did both of those things. And you didn't allow the confines of a building or physical location to define your learning. You studied on your own schedule. You studied around the world. And you took your own path. Now, folks, this is a fairly unusual and momentous occasion for one more reason, beyond all the many incredible accomplishments that we've celebrated today. Before you right now stand the finest and most amazing group of legal educators and visionaries in this country. Can we give them a round of applause? I appreciate that. My colleagues, my very good colleagues. Each of them, in their own way, is responsible for the success of this wonderful law school, of which I'm so proud to be a part. And they're all, in their own way, in many ways, leading the evolution of the world of legal education. I should add, I've only asked the old-timers, or maybe we should say long-timers. It's probably better to say long-timers, to stand up with me. I would include in that statement all the rest of the faculty, many of whom are with us today, some are not, the staff, some are with us as well today, and so many others who've contributed to Concord these last 14 and a half years. The group that's standing here now just happens to be a group here today that has been around since the very beginnings of the law school, But so many wonderful people can count themselves as founders of this school. We appreciate them today as well. But there's one person that stands out among this group. Many of our alumni and friends of the law school are aware of Donna Skibby's tireless and amazing work for Concord over many years. Today, we share with you an important moment of really well-earned recognition for Vice President Skibby. You know, extraordinary achievements in science, literature, economics, peace may be acknowledged by Nobel Prizes. Great movies get Oscars, great plays, Tony Awards. The person we're honoring today has embodied the Concord dream and labored tirelessly to make it a reality. Today, we honor Donna Skibby with the law school equivalent of all those awards, an honorary Juris Doctorate.
That I've spent more time in law schools over my whole career who'd never been to law school than anyone else. So now I can just say, okay. Thank you all. Thank you very much. You guys are great. Congratulations.
And so I need to tell you just a little bit about Donna's career. In addition to Concord, 30 years in legal education, leading any number of different businesses in connection with legal education. We're so incredibly proud and pleased to have her a part of our school, so that we do it in the full, proper way, by the power vested in me by the state of California, and on behalf of the faculty of Concord Law School and the administration and board of trustees of Kaplan University, for innovation, leadership, dedication, and service to legal education in Concord Law School, and in appreciation for her unparalleled warmth, extraordinary example, endless energy, brilliant mind, and enormous heart, it's my honor to award Donna Skibby this honorary Juris Doctor degree. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing that with us. I know it's been a long day, but this does bring us to the end of our ceremony. What a tremendous day for all of you and for all of us. This concludes the formal ceremony. We'd appreciate the audience remaining in their seats during this recessional. We look forward to seeing you at the reception and luncheon, which follows out in the Amundsen ballroom on the upper level of the Skirball Center. This 19th Concord Law School commencement is adjourned.